Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. Hello, Second Fiddle.
That's what, yeah. So it's all good.
It's all good. What? So when we first jumped on the call, I was right in the middle of having my mind blown. It has been so when this show airs, we're a little ahead, and so when this is our Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Yes, happy
right?
2012 to you.
Almost. I can't remember. When is this going to go? What is today?
Today is January
something.
3rd, 4th, 5th. January.
Today is Happy New Year. How's
Happy New
your
Year to you.
first week of 2012 been?
Busy.
How will have your first week of 2012 have been?
Busy. We're going to be shooting today on January 5th, 4th and 5th. We'll be shooting some interviews with a former military general who's going to be the host of a TV show that we're working on with a Canadian company. So we're getting 6 episodes of the host shot those 2 days.
That's outstanding.
And
I think anytime you can get in
work.
bed with Canada, you're in good shape. Anytime.
Yeah.
They do good work, Canadians.
They do. Hey.
Well, I was in the middle of having my mind blown because in the past,
so many weeks ago, news.
The Dark Knight Rises trailer hit this last week, and so did The Hobbit, the first full-length trailer of The Hobbit.
And you haven't mentioned this one, but Prometheus.
Oh my goodness! I cannot believe I didn't mention it. This was so huge. This is going to be I can't.
It was a big week. It was a big week
for trailers, and I actually have had them just in a rotating playlist.
Mm-hmm.
My mind has been so. Actually, I just saw the Dark Knight Rises trailer, and I'll tell you, the football stadium blows me away. That was so cool. It doesn't.
That's the one thing for me that I'm not 100% thrilled with. And it's only because I just have a hard time buying that the guy who's running doesn't realize that the entire ground behind him just disappeared. I don't know. That's just me.
Well, it's because of all those years you spent on the gridiron. You know.
Exactly. I know.
That there's a certain sort of preternatural awareness that you have as you're running for the touchdown.
Yes. I know what shaking ground is like.
Maybe he just thought that was what his ego was doing to the ground. As the weight of his ego, I just thought it was a very cool effect and a cool choice. And you're right. The surprise as he turned around at the end was a bit of a gimmick, but man, the trailer looks great. I cannot. Alfred's speech in the beginning, I had a tear. It's
a great trailer, and
it's a great trailer.
It's interesting how. Obviously, they wrote the script for it, years ago, a couple years, who knows? And they've been working on it for quite a while. But oddly, it felt very tied into everything going on right now with like the Occupy Wall Street protesters and everything. Selena Kyle's little tiny speech that she has to Bruce Wayne about, you all you people sitting up here with your money or whatever she says. I was like, that just seems timed so.
It really was, and I think
strangely,
it's even more impactful that real life events would sort of punctuate this film, because it really punctuates the entire series. Because this was a theme. The sort of have and have nots has been a theme since the first of the trilogy.
Yeah,
and I think they've back when it wasn't as big of a deal, and now it's sort of leading the charge. It's fascinating. It's really well done.
My understanding, I think there may be one shot in the trailer, but my understanding is that there's even some flashback scenes to back when he was training with Liam Neeson, as before he was revealed as Ra's al Ghul, back in China. So. Yeah, it's going to be a really good one. I'm excited about that one.
All right, and so Prometheus. What's your take on Prometheus?
I am. The trailer is really intriguing. It really is a teaser. I mean, it's not as much a tease as some teasers are, but it certainly doesn't give you a whole lot. It made me very excited to see the film, but I still feel like I don't fully comprehend what the story itself is.
That is my challenge too, and I'm with you. I'm really excited about this film, but I've read these sort of conflicting reports. Do you know, like, how is this supposed to be in some way tied into Alien past work, or is this a complete standalone?
No, it's tied into the universe. I am not very clear if it actually has aliens in it. I don't think so. I think it's the universe that those people live in, and I think we're going to see the ship that in Alien, Ripley and her team, the one that they go into and explore, and where they first find the eggs and the facehugger.
Yeah.
There's that great big, person, being, whatever it is, who's kind of dead in that chair, and I think that it's more along that timeline.
Okay.
So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's one I'm very excited about. I mean, you could just feel it when that trailer opens up and you see those ships.
Yeah.
They're such Ridley Scott production design, I mean, it's like you can tell he's got his hands in everything.
Yeah, he really does.
It is beautifully done.
It's a really fantastic cast in that one too.
Yeah, right. People that you haven't heard enough of getting some pretty big roles, other than Charlize Theron, who's been everywhere. But
yeah, but it's got Noomi
Rapace.
I'm not quite sure how you say her last name, but from the original Swedish version of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah.
Patrick Wilson, Michael Fassbender, who's like in everything right now.
Yeah, all of a sudden.
Patrick Wilson, Idris Elba, Guy Pearce.
Who's fantastic. I think it's Idris Elba.
Idris. Is it Idris? I said it wrong both ways.
I think
awesome.
I think so. And he's boy. Yeah, I like that guy.
Yeah, he's the captain. So I'm really excited about that. I'm gonna have to watch the trailer a couple more times to see if I can figure out what's going on with it. But
yeah. Did you get through all of The Wire? You a Wire fan?
I didn't get through. I enjoy The Wire. I've only watched part of the first season, so I have quite a ways to go.
Yeah.
It was one of those ones where I rented it and I got a bad disc.
And that sort of sets you all up for nothing.
And then I was just like, and then all of a sudden other discs from other things started arriving, and I just kind of was like, oh well. Yeah,
you mess up. Well, he was Idris Elba's Stringer Bell in that in The Wire, and that was he's been in a ton of stuff, and that's still the one that I really remember.
So that's
So that was that's Prometheus, and what was the third one that hit? Hobbit. The Hobbit.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Now talk about it. Like, I mean, I don't think they called it a trailer. I think that they I can't remember what they listed it as, but I watched it. I'm like, this is the full trailer. Like,
yeah. It's like 2.5 minutes. I mean, it's a full feature trailer.
It's a full trailer. I mean, you get a lot of dwarf song about the Misty Mountains, but talk about just setting up the world and the story. And, you get Frodo, you get Bilbo from, their time in the Lord of the Rings days. And then you jump back and my goodness, that just is, that was an early Christmas present getting that one.
Absolutely. We were talking about it at the old family hearth. And because it was one I have read. My daughter, she's 9, and I read her The Hobbit and read her Fellowship of the Ring, and we are in the middle of The Two Towers.
Oh, fantastic!
And her take on it once she sort of saw it was, wow, you can really tell that they are trying to match tone with Lord of the Rings. Because the movie or the book, The Hobbit, seemed like kind of a happy bedtime story compared to Lord of the Rings, and this does not look like a happy bedtime story.
No, it does not.
So it looks like they've done a really good job trying to build this as a universe.
Well, they've really extended the story because I mean, The Hobbit was a fairly small book.
It was very short, yeah.
And they've expanded this to 2 films.
Yeah. That's right. 2 films. This is going to be a significant thing. But they're coming out pretty close together, right? Just 2012, 2013.
Yeah. I mean, they're shooting it the same way they
Yeah,
shot
yeah.
the first trilogy. I just read this. Did you know Evangeline Lilly is in it?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's very exciting.
That's really great. I oh,
Yeah,
I've got a crush.
it's gonna be good. It's
Oh
gonna be
man.
good.
All right. Well, so that was 2 weeks ago.
Yes, let's
Now
talk about the here and
let's
now.
talk about the here and now. So this is our Happy New Year celebration film.
Yes, and this is a big surprise. Nobody knows what we're about to talk about.
I think they might.
Oh, might
Didn't
they?
we mention this last week?
I don't think we did. I didn't we leave it as a surprise?
Oh,
I
well,
don't
maybe
know.
we did. I don't know. Well, this is 1989. Rob Reiner, When Harry Met Sally.
Yes.
I think this was your big brainiac idea. Why did you want to do this movie?
It's a new we were trying to think of New Year's films, and for some reason this film to me seems the perennial New Year's classic, if there is such a thing. The the end scene of this film is just, to me, has always has anytime I think of New Year's, I think of that scene when Harry and Sally finally get together.
Oh,
Um, and it's
this
just as I mean, I was still just as caught up with that whole ending as ever. I mean, it's fantastic writing and performances, just beautifully done all around.
there's so much about this movie that that I want to talk about, and I look at my pages of notes as I was watching it. This is the first time that I've sat down with a movie that the rest of my family would like to watch with me for this show. Nobody else
Yes,
wants to sit through.
me too.
I don't know what that says. Maybe that's why nobody wants to listen to all the deep shows. We have some diehard fans so far,
Yes.
3 of them, and they listen to the same shows
Thank you.
of the of this. They're into the movies we are, but no one will want to watch these movies with us if you've never seen them. This one they do, and I think I was really moved by what a talkie this movie is. I had forgot. It's probably been, oh man, I want to say probably 8-10 years since I've seen it. I sort of want to start with the script. Because there's some story behind the script that I didn't get. I didn't
Yeah.
know how it came together.
I didn't either. It was actually quite interesting to learn about. Nora Ephron, of course, wrote the script, and she's, of course, since gone on to, write and direct many, great and not so great films, like Sleepless in Seattle. That was on the great side.
Oh,
Uh,
totally agree. And okay, this isn't a Sleepless in Seattle thing, but I think she has a gift for this kind of film, and when she stays
yeah.
true to that form, she does very, very well.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So, she and Rob Reiner and what's his name, Andrew Scheinman, I guess were all buddies, and they were all meeting to talk about a project. And this was '84, actually. So this was quite a while before the movie actually got made. They were sitting down talking about a project, and Rob Reiner had just gone through a divorce from Penny Marshall, which I didn't realize. And
That he was married to her, or that they divorced.
that both, I didn't know that
Mm.
they had ever been together.
Hmm.
So he and Andrew were kind of trying to live the life of single guys, and they were just kind of chatting with Nora about this, and they somehow struck on the idea of actually making a film about, the struggle of trying to get in, trying to find love, and the battle between men and women, and how men are always trying to figure women out and women are always trying to figure men out, but it's always a battle trying to actually figure the other sex out.
Right. They and the conversation, the way the conversations evolved, it sounds like Ephron took those initial meetings to interview Reiner and developed this character of Harry based on Reiner and his experience.
Yeah, in fact, so much so that it was the DVD had a kind of an old documentary with it about the making of, and Billy Crystal said that when he came on to actually act the part, he had to, at a couple times, he actually had to say to Rob Reiner, Rob, you have to let go of it now. I'm going to play Harry now, and I'm going to, I know where you're going with this, but I need to be this guy now.
Can you imagine? I don't know what's the word. Can you imagine directing yourself like that?
Yeah, I know. Charlie Kaufman can.
Yeah, seriously. He sort of buries himself in the part. And there's an interesting that makes this film sort of an interesting parallel to adaptation. When you sort of open the book in this way, and I didn't know that, and it sort of opened my eyes to this to the process. I originally had looked at adaptation as sort of a standalone, but when you see something as I want to say mainstream, but as much of a romantic cult classic as Harry and Sally, it really is the same thing. Now, it sort of, to embrace and extend the theme, not only was Harry written, around Rob Reiner, who directed the film, but Sally ended up being written around Nora Ephron.
Yeah, and a lot of her idiosyncrasies
and quirks, right? And so here we are. They essentially wrote their own sort of psychological profile pick.
Yeah.
Movie
Which would have been really interesting if they ended up like falling in love and marrying after this, but they didn't.
That would have made a better story.
Like pre-counseling.
Exactly, an even better story. The format and form of the film, it really is just scene after static scene of dialogue moving the plot forward, right?
Yeah.
It's even less of a plot than a framework for a discussion about men and women that you uncover. But there are rarely more than 3 people in a given scene. It makes up, you end, even from the very beginning, right? When they open with the relationship, and I know you want to talk about the old people bits.
Yes.
But the very first scene is, Harry and Sally in the car. And can we say Datsun? There is a Datsun in this car in this scene. I love that.
That was great.
And Harry's girlfriend.
Yes.
So it makes that perfect sort of dramatic trio in the first scene, and it just feels like it would be staged so well as a play. And I know it has since been made a play, but it really was written originally as a film.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think to a certain extent that ends up being the nature of this sort of comedy. Kind of the romantic comedy, yes, but I mean, kind of just a dialogue-heavy comedy where it really kind of feels almost Woody Allen-esque, it's just, a neurotic man trying to deal with love, and so it has a very Woody Allen feel to the flow and to the style. Rob Reiner even talks about it, Barry Sonnenfeld was the director of photography, and if there's ever somebody in the canon of filmmaking who was the person that did something in a film that actually caught my eye and made me realize that the camera could kind of be alive and be involved in the scenes, it was Barry Sonnenfeld's camera work.
Tell me why. Give me some examples from this film.
Well, not from this film. From previous films that he had done, in particular, and I know this is going to be the strangest example to give as something that will always end up, sticking in my head as a film that brought me into or out of film watching and into kind of like mentally thinking about filmmaking, was 3 O'Clock High. I'm not going to say it was a great film, but I certainly loved it, and I haven't seen it in, I don't even know when the last time I saw that movie was, but there was something about the way that the camera moved in that film that just made me want to go make a movie. It was just alive, and it did so much in the movie to bring it to life.
That was a fascinating movie. I don't remember much about it other than the fact that Tangerine Dream did the music.
Right. Yeah.
And I apparently was a big Tangerine Dream fan. I actually have a bunch of Tangerine Dream albums.
Oh, I see. You have the Legend soundtrack
Please,
that
please don't
that they
even open that. Don't open the old wounds.
So, but anyway, so Barry Sonnenfeld, though, he was the DP on this, and he's done a lot of great films, including these kind of romantic comedies. But Rob Reiner is a big believer that in films like this, the camera needs to not be doing that. It needs to sit back and just essentially kind of observe and let things happen. And you don't notice it in the film, but there's a lot of really long takes where it's just like a one take shot that goes on and on and on, that for like a couple minutes that they would do that really allowed the actors to just act the scenes and build the comedy.
I don't even know that you don't. I think you're probably right that you don't notice when you're watching the film, but when you sit back and sort of start pulling it apart, the first stop where Harry and Sally stop at the first diner, there is I think close to a minute when from the point where they walk into the door and they have this long sort of Sally has a long reaction shot to Harry as he walks out of frame and sits down at a booth, and from there on, after that first cut when she kind of regains composure and joins him at the table, it becomes a very simple sort of three-angle setup.
Yeah.
And most of the set, if it's not cutting back from A and B on their position, it's as if the entire scene has been just cut in half and you're just sort of watching a diorama, that they may as well be, that the table they're sitting at may as well be, sort of invisibly breaking the fourth wall and you could be sitting at it.
Yeah.
It is, the close-up shots are so intimate, and the framing of the two shots are always just so perfect. And the parallel between the first diner and the second diner during the orgasm scene is, practically point for point.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful. I mean, it really is like looking into a hole in a shoebox, and there's something going on in this world.
And he continues that later when it's Sally with her two friends. Actually, I think this is before the orgasm scene. It's with her two friends
sitting out on the patio, right?
Sitting out on the patio. She had just broken up with Joe, and the camera work is so simple. It's like you've got a shot of the girl on her left, a shot of the girl on her right, a shot of Sally, a three shot. And the great thing is that shot cuts immediately to the football scene where you've got Harry and his buddy sitting there at the football game watching, and it's the camera setups are exactly the same.
Exactly.
You've got the camera on the left, camera on the right, camera in front of them, and it's such a simple way to let the story just unfold in a way where it looks great. You don't have to worry about it, and it lets the story just be there for you.
It really does. It really does. It's that sense of simplicity is everywhere.
Well, and it takes somebody like Barry Sonnenfeld. It really speaks highly of him as a director of photography, working in such a simplistic manner that really, lets the story be told the way it needs to be told, and not trying to force things onto the story that aren't necessary for the story.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my comment, because your first comment on Barry Sonnenfeld is that here's a guy who knows how to make the camera come alive. And this is a movie in which really he had to show uncharacteristic restraint.
Yeah.
Your comment?
It's exactly. No, that's exactly it.
You go, Barry Sonnenfeld. I don't know what I was expecting there. Maybe nothing.
But here's the thing about that, though, that I will say. I had to let it build.
Okay, all right.
I did have a comment. Even though it's very simplistic, it still is very creative, the way that he uses the simplicity. For example, in the football scene, where you've got the left shot of Bruno Kirby as Jess, you've got the right shot of Billy Crystal, you've got the two shot of them, and then with all of that, with their conversation going on about how, he's getting a divorce from Helen and all this stuff. I mean, it's a horrible conversation about a breakup, right? And then you have the wave coming by out in the football stands,
Mm-hmm.
and every time the wave comes by, the camera cuts to the two shot. You see them, and they stand up. The camera lifts up with them. They do the wave. The camera comes back down with them, and then it immediately jumps right back into the cutting back and forth. Even though it's very simplistic, the camera really still helps the humor build the way that it needs to build.
I think that in very large part is as a result of the partnership with Robert Layton, who was the editor on this one, and you have to, I think that goes specifically to pacing.
Yeah.
The way this film is paced and the way every single line is delivered, I think in particular one of the most sort of touching exchanges between Harry and Sally is in the museum toward the end. It's the Parpakosh scene, right?
Yeah.
The legendary pepper on the Parpakosh. And it's one of those very simple sort of, A-B setups again, and they cut back and forth, then they stroll a little on a wide shot, and they cut back and forth, and they stroll a little on the wide shot. And there is this moment where she says, "Oh, Harry," she has this moment. She says she can't because she's going on a date. And it's just the perfect sort of comma, not even, it's an ellipsis. As you see his face, and it cuts to a wide shot, and he goes out and starts talking about this piece of art again. And it's one of those that it's a beat that hits me every time. It's like somebody has just strummed the E string in my heart. It's just perfect.
Yeah.
Every time. And Layton is a long time collaborator with Rob Reiner, and has the other movies that he's done have largely been far more complex. Few Good Men and American President, Ghost of Mississippi. They're far more complex films, and again, that Restraint, I think really, let this film shine.
Yeah, that's true.
Princess Bride. Are you kidding? What a fantastic example. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, it's all about knowing the story that you're working with and being able to use the tools you have to tell the story the proper way that it needs to be told.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks highly for not just both of them, but for Rob Reiner as well. It really does. They really knew how to make this movie the way it needed to be made.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it gets to, one of the things we've talked about before, which is the whole concept of these sort of teams of creative people that work together again and again and again, and they come to each other to develop these projects. That's they've got a really special mix on these films.
And speaking of teams, another thing that really I think was brought to the table in this film was Mark Scheinman, who did all of the music for the film. This film is notorious. I don't know if notorious is the right word, but it's become well known because this is where essentially Harry Connick Jr. was discovered.
Yes.
He's like 20 years old, I think, when he did all the music for this, and he won a Grammy because of his performance in it. But he worked with Mark Scheinman, who did all of the arranging of all of the great old tunes that they use throughout this film, all the great standards, and some like kind of standards that you don't hear quite as much, but still fantastic in their own right. But through this film, this was the first time that Rob Reiner worked with Mark Scheinman, and every film he's done since has been with him.
Yeah, you just know, and Mark Scheinman is a terrific talent. The soundtrack for this film was, boy, if you could wear out a CD, I certainly did it.
Yeah. Well, just fantastic music in this film.
Yeah, fantastic. I was thinking about it last night as I was, it was unfortunately that I was actually watching this movie with my wife because, she married me. And
Mhm.
and I like to think
She's your Sally.
Well, I guess, yeah. The problem is that I used most of my best material to get her to marry me. And what I didn't realize was 90% of my best material I had pulled right from this movie, like line after line that I had used on her. They were some of Harry and Jess's, great wit that
Right.
I just, it's so funny. I'm like, this movie is unbelievably quotable.
Yeah, I mean, literally, we could probably sit here for 20 minutes and just, rattle off take turns rattling lines off. I mean, there's just so many great lines. Baby fish mouth.
Baby fish. Oh, because baby fish mouth is sweeping the nation. Tell me the story of your life. Tell me the story of your life. That line, Harry's first line in the Datsun, has kicked off most of my significant relationships over the last 20 years. I kid
Wow.
you not, including my wife's.
That's fantastic.
Chinese food, Beaverton, Oregon. I don't even remember the name, but I did ask her, in fact, to tell me the story of her life. Well, my life, it hasn't even begun yet, she says to me. She didn't even know she was quoting, and she practically did.
That's awesome.
You see what I did? I said I would let a line. I did. It's already out there. These are like
What do you mean it's out there? Yeah.
part of the cultural fabric now. People don't even know. It's already out there.
Yeah, people quote it without realizing that they're quoting it. It's become that quotable of a film where it just, it's in our blood now to say lines from this film.
¿Dónde está Wallace y Theodore? Oh, man. Okay, so let's talk about locations. Can we talk about locations?
Yes, let's talk locations. So it was all filmed on location in New York City, right?
It was indeed.
Chicago and New York.
It was indeed. I read an interesting commentary, and I want your opinion of it. As a filmmaker.
Mm.
So the concept is that the locations, the locations, you got to admit, the locations are stunning. The colors are so vibrant. I mean, whenever Harry and Sally are having a rich, confused conversation about the nature of love, they're walking through Central Park, and they're beautiful orange leaves, blowing, the leaves of the Northeast are blowing around their feet, and they're having this conversation, or they're in this fabulous old building, or in their, wherever they are, they're in these great iconic locations. So the concept is that these locations serve as sort of mile markers to their own lack of awareness, their sort of ignorance. Like, look at how these characters are having this conversation, that they are so unaware of their own feelings, they don't see what's right in front of their face.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
I think so. I mean, you mean just like it's a world they're inhabiting without realizing what they're inhabiting,
Yeah,
because they're so entwined in their own stories they're telling at the moment.
Exactly. And it seems like when they are most present with themselves, or in these spaces where they're, sort of most closed off and confined, they're, kind of on the airport, people mover. But when they are sort of most vulnerable is when they're in this space that is, uncharacteristically gorgeous.
Yeah.
I find that really interesting. And you sort of watch as their awareness and their sort of awakenings as people occur, and they sort of come to terms with their environment. And it's interesting then that it ends in the one environment that has been consistent throughout the entire film, which is the couch.
Yes, which I think is just a. Are you there?
Yeah, no, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
All the sound just dropped away. That was a little weird.
So let's talk. Tell me about the couples. What do you think about the couples?
Until I started researching for this movie, I have always been under the impression that these were real couples.
Let us put that to bed right now.
Yeah, they're not.
Did that break your heart a little bit?
It really did. I was like, oh man, I mean, I love that they at least still feel like real couples. And to their credit, they really wanted to have real couples in this film. The problem with real couples telling their stories is they meander and they go off on tangents and they stumble. You know, they're not actors. They don't tell the stories as well as they could. And so what they did is they got all these real couples to tell their stories. And it was like, you know, some of their parents, their friends' parents. It was just like a lot of people they knew and stuff.
Yeah.
These couples told their stories, and then they really kind of cleaned them up and had these wonderful old actors come in and act them all out, basically. It does break my heart a little tiny bit that they're not real people. But the fact that they're still real stories, I think there's still some magic there.
I do too. I was sort of happy to have that, but because they felt so perfectly scripted. How I remember thinking about this thing. I was like, they must have burned through reel after reel of film trying to capture these couples.
Yeah.
So they probably did anyway using the actors, but really, I mean, it's good. I think the use of the couples was really strong.
The idea of it for a love story and just how people, I mean, these little vignettes, I guess we'll call them, of these real couples, all of whom are seniors, are just, you know, beautiful little love stories about how they kind of met and found their true love, essentially, and how you learn how it's never as clean and simple as, you know, you would think it to be. It's always kind of messy, and maybe you're with the wrong person and before you meet the right person, or, you know, you're kind of suspicious if it's really going to actually work out, and then 50 years later you're still together. It's a really beautiful way to say, you know, love is kind of a messy thing. But, you know, you find that person, and once you realize they're the one, then you're set.
Yes, it is. And it was, I think it's so funny how these couples illustrate, or I guess are illustrated by what goes on immediately after, particularly in the middle of the film, when right after Harry is dealing with his major loss. And you end up watching Harry and Sally. She's in her jazzercise or dance aerobics, whatever, tapper-size class, crazy class, and
whatever it was they were doing back in the 80s.
He's throwing cards into a bowl in that giant apartment,
right?
And again, another gorgeous location. I mean, they live in incredible places in New York.
Yeah.
And yet are stuck in that sort of point of ignorance. I think you're right. What do you, I made a note here about Breslin, and I guess I just thought it was funny. You know, when Jess is talking about, and don't let me forget, because I want to talk about Casablanca too. But when Jess, they're at dinner, that brilliant dinner where Harry and Sally are introducing. What is Carrie Fisher's character?
Marie.
Jess and Marie. They think they're going to introduce Jess and Marie to Harry and Sally to each other, and set them up on a date.
Yes.
And it doesn't work. Jess and Marie end up falling in love with each other. But halfway through through their dinner, he starts talking about Jimmy Breslin and how Jimmy Breslin is his idol as a writer. And what I find interesting is that both Jess and Marie work for New York Magazine.
Did Marie work for New York Magazine?
Yeah, there's a scene in there where he says, "Oh, Marie also writes for New York Magazine." And he says, "Ah."
No, it was Sally. He says Sally also writes for magazine, New York Magazine.
Oh no, you're right. Okay,
that's why
okay,
he
okay.
reacts that way.
Oh, you're right. You're right. That was that thing. Well, and then Marie ends up quoting back to her, and he's trying to talk to Sally about Jimmy Breslin, and says, "Oh, Jimmy Breslin's my absolute, hero."
Right.
And it was in May of 1990 that Breslin got in trouble for being just that. You remember this? He's just a horrible, sexist, racist, just a horrible guy. Horrible guy. And it was like right after this film came out that that he throws a fit at one of the Korean writers for the Newsday, and calls her in public some horrifically sexist, racist comments in the newsroom. Gets picked up everywhere. Guy gets suspended immediately, and it's I just have to imagine that was just months after this movie came out as he's saying, "Oh no, I don't know if that makes it funnier or not. I found it amusing now. I actually had to go back and look up Breslin. That was
any of those people who throw one of those tantrums, it just it never bodes well.
No, no.
You gotta curb that a little bit, buddy.
So one of the scenes that I thought was really interesting, and this was part of the background, was that when Rob Reiner was getting a divorce, he and Billy Crystal would get on the phone together at night, and they would watch the same movie on TV, which was directly picked up for the film as Harry and Sally would call each other and watch Casablanca.
Yeah, another little moment that Nora Ephron stole out of their lives.
She's just a thief.
She is.
It was. What did you think of that scene? I mean, as we were talking about simplicity.
It's, the thing about this film is all of those moments capture so perfectly moments that we all live. I've done the same thing where I've been watching a show with a buddy, back in college or high school or whenever it was, and we'd be watching the same show and just talking on the phone about it. And, it happens all the time. It's just one of those moments that is captured in just the right way where it really lends a lot more to the just the truth of it, I guess.
Yeah.
There's loneliness to it, but there's also this connection there that I don't know. I really love those scenes in this film. And I love that they do them split screen, where it feels like they're in the scene together even though they're not.
It was perfect. That was my comment. I actually drew the split screen in my notes because I think it was so well done. And it was, what I liked so much about it is I'm trying to remember if they actually cut apart at all. They cut back and forth. So most of it, you're looking behind their head over their shoulder, right? I'm watching, and then they cut forward.
Right. I think most of it, you're looking at their faces, but it starts over their shoulders, looking at the TVs, right?
It cuts back and forth. It's like just a two camera, but I don't think at any point during that scene they ever show you the individual actor alone.
Only after she hangs up and turns her light off, and then it doesn't stay. You're looking at the dark right side of the screen, and he is sitting there moaning alone. That's genius. That is just genius, which also was stolen from Rob Reiner.
Yeah. Yeah. Just moaning.
Yeah. It's so perfect. And you know what always has struck me about that split screen? And it's the strangest thing to notice, but it's how perfectly aligned it is. Like even their pillows, like the point in the frame where there's the line,
They match.
his pillow and her pillow line up with each other. It's like, are you kidding me? How perfectly do you guys set this so it's done that way? It's amazing.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Best last line of a movie ever. The last I don't know, the last thing that I had on my list were eyes. You can always see when there's a great new dramatic awakening by their eyes, because they go wide-eyed, owl-eyed. And the first time is that you see this owl-eyed effect where they're both in the same sort of space is first New Year's Eve, when they dance cheek to cheek.
Right.
And at the end of that scene, they're both sort of weirded out.
Yeah, it's the first time they kind of have the realization that they both have feelings for each other that is beyond their friendship, that they've just always thought was there.
Right.
And it's a great moment. And man, if that doesn't end perfectly, the way that they kind of just like it's almost like there's that little snap out of it that Harry does, where he's like, oh, Happy New Year, and they just go back to being friends. But that moment happened.
It's such a soft moment. And then, so they get through New Year's. Let's see. So they have the hug on the porch. They go out. They introduce their friends. They have the Ira Sharper Image. Do you remember when Sharper Image was cool?
Yes.
Oh, those were the days.
So funny.
That was a destination store.
Yeah, it was. It was the high-end hangout at the mall.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
He meets Ira. They have their blow up baby fish mouth, and then they do it. Yes, she gets the notice that they're.
She finds out that Joe is getting married. And by the way, we haven't even mentioned who plays Joe.
No, we have not.
I didn't even know this. I thought this was quite an interesting little bit of trivia. Stephen Ford plays Joe. He is the son of President Ford. And
that's right.
I mean, it's like, wow,
I don't know.
So funny.
Is that what else was Stephen Ford in that I?
I don't even know.
He was probably in Falcon Crest. He doesn't. He just looks like a guy who would be in Falcon Crest. Not quite Dallas, but Falcon Crest.
They should have made a show called Not Quite Dallas. Great. Actually, I'm looking at his career. He was actually he was cast in the 1978 film Grease, but dropped out before filming was replaced. He was in The Young and the Restless.
Okay, not quite Guiding Light, but The Young and the Restless. Okay.
And then he had a number of minor roles in movies such as Escape from New York, Babylon 5, Armageddon, Black Hawk Down, Starship Troopers, Heat, Transformers, and Contact.
Wow. Some of those movies were awesome.
He's quite the bit player.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that is interesting. So
fascinating.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this movie, we've been rambling.
So we were talking.
What do you got?
Well, I was going to say I'd interrupted you because you were talking about Big Eyes, and
because
off on a side little thing with Joe there, because you were talking about when they did it.
No, I'm glad you did. And then Harry had the big eyes again, and that was that next sort of bit of kind of awareness, that next point of awareness, and then the next day he gets up and leaves, and she has the big eyes when she realizes, we're done. He's getting dressed. And and then the movie wraps up, and they have that perfect speech. The speech that again, another line I've quoted way too many times. I love that you're the last person I want to talk to at the end of the day.
Yeah. I love the because when you finally realize that you know who the love of your life is, you want to get that life started right away,
Oh,
right
it's
that
so
moment.
good. That's so good. And there you go, Harry. Just like you, Harry, you say things like that and you make it impossible for me to hate you.
And I hate you, Harry.
I hate you, Harry.
That's another thing I love about that ending is she doesn't say I love you. It's I hate you, Harry. I hate you. I hate you.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's just a beautiful, beautiful ending.
And then, of course, what is so great about it is, he breaks the moment with a joke. What does this song mean? For my whole life, I don't know what this song means. And she totally picks it up. Well, maybe it just means we should remember that we forgot them or something.
Yeah, that was great.
It was great. I feel like you and I should be on the couch talking about this movie. The first time we ever saw this movie, we loved it, and then we hated it, and then we loved it.
We loved it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That is funny.
That's good. Do you have anything else?
Let's see. We mentioned all the wonderful actors who were in it.
You know what we didn't do, and you are the one who always does this, is we didn't talk about the stats. So it was looks like the budget was what, 16 million. It made just under 100. You need to have your special I'm an Insider website open so you can talk about this.
I'm opening it right now. You're right.
This is your. You see, now it's out there. We can't end the show until it's done because now it's out there.
Ooh, it's out there. What are we gonna do?
Movie came out July 14th, 1989. Running time 96 minutes. It's short.
It was out there while Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade was in theaters.
Yes, indeed.
They were, attracting different markets. I actually saw this in the theater with my girlfriend at the time. It was I think it was one of the two great date movies that summer. It was this and Say Anything, as I recall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about
Say Anything's got to be like a Valentine's Day bit.
Yeah, we should do a little Cameron Crowe trilogy or something.
Okay, a footnote on Cameron Crowe. You go ahead, then I'll tell you.
Theatrical performance, domestic box office, 92,823,546.
Awards?
It did get some nominations. Nora Ephron received an Oscar nomination for this, as well as a WGA Award nomination for her script. She won the British Academy Film Award for Best Original Screenplay, and it was also nominated there for the Best Film.
Mm-hmm.
It was nominated for 5 Golden Globes and for all the major awards. And it's been, there's countless websites and places like Entertainment Weekly, Bravo, that put it on their top 100, top 10 most romantic movies, the funniest movies.
It's on a couple of AFI lists, 100 Years, 100 Laughs. It's on all the lists.
And I think it got one of the lists was funniest lines or something. And that was for specifically the line we haven't even mentioned.
I know.
Spoken by Rob Reiner's mother in the film. I'll have what she's having.
Brilliant line. Now, the way I understand it, the way that scene came together, this is another one of those rumor busters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I did not understand how this came together. The way I understand it, the original way this film, the scene was supposed to have been scripted, it was just talking about faking orgasms. And it was Meg Ryan, who was new to the shoot. She had convinced Rob Reiner that she should have the role over Molly Ringwald, among other characters.
Molly Ringwald, Susan Day.
Susan Day, really?
It's like that was his first choice, really?
Yeah,
Susan Day?
So he has some judgment issues, Rob Reiner, some character judgment. But Meg Ryan gets the role, and it was her idea to fake it.
Right.
And it was Billy Crystal who came up with the legendary line and gave it to the mother.
Exactly. And a little extra note about that scene that he talks about on the audio commentary. Meg Ryan did it a couple times, and she wasn't quite getting it as big as he wanted it to. She seemed to be kind of holding back a little bit. So Rob's like, here, let me show you what I mean. So he sits down and he does it. He does this incredible, like, crazy orgasm scene where he's pounding the table. Yes, yes, yes. Billy Crystal said he was sweating so much across from him, and I can't remember who he said he looked like, but just horribly, just awful and sweaty. And he looked like somebody who had just eaten like really spicy Thai food or something like that. And so Rob Reiner looks at Meg and says, "You think you got it?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I can do that now." And then Rob Reiner turned and he realized that his mother is sitting at the next table, and he's just realized that he's just doing this orgasm scene in front of his mother. Oh my goodness.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's the things we never knew. I love that's a legendary scene.
It is.
Legendary line. What else? What else is on your list? Your big list of things to tell us.
Oh, let's see. I think that we pretty much hit everything. I think it was just a fantastic film, fantastic cast, just such a great story. It's one of those ones that we can go back and watch anytime and just still relive the magic from it. It's just a beautiful love story. And I think it's beautiful because it's kind of a messy love story. It's friends, it's men and women and their inability to completely figure each other out. But there's that constant attraction, and I don't know. It's just a fantastic film. I love it.
It is. It is a movie that stands up every bit today as it did the day it came out.
Yeah.
It's one that just, even I've been sitting there with my wife of going on who knows how many years, 13 years. And I'm watching it and I literally reach over to hold her hand like we were seeing it for the first time on a first date. It's a very special feeling that you get with this movie.
It's very beautiful.
Done. Yeah. I just have two other little links, and we can put these in the show notes that I thought were really interesting this week, and I meant to say at the beginning of the show, and I forgot. The first one is, do you watch The Daily Show?
No, not in any way where I could say that I regularly view it.
What's his name? Will Hunting. What's his name?
Matt Damon.
Matt Damon was on Daily Show, and it's worth watching because he talks about his new movie. Bought a zoo. I bought a zoo, or we bought a zoo.
Oh, this is your Cameron.
This
Crowe
is a Cameron Crowe thing.
Yeah.
And I'd always thought, this movie's so weird. Why would anybody make a movie like this? It looks kind of weird. Why is Matt Damon in it? And then you see the credits, and it says, "Oh, this is a Cameron Crowe film." Oh, well, suddenly I need to see it. And I had that feeling. I remember having that feeling. And he goes on Daily Show, and Jon Stewart has the exact same reaction, and he talks through the entire plot. Damon talks through the entire plot. Yeah, there was money exchanged for a zoo. We bought a zoo. It's a family thing. Oh, by the way, it's a Cameron Crowe movie. And Jon Stewart's like, oh, well, that's one we need to see then. And it's a good interview, and it kind of it's funny. It still doesn't necessarily nail why I really am going to want to see this movie beyond the fact that it's a Cameron Crowe film. Right, and there isn't a movie that guy's done that I have walked away saying I don't like it. And the second one is a great article from the Times with Daniel Craig. who is, he's got
Mikael
the
Blomkvist.
Yeah, he's got the dragon tattoo thing going on. But he talks about something that really stuck out for me, which was Quantum of Solace.
Yeah.
Did you see this bit? Have you seen this quote?
I didn't see the article. I didn't see it.
Okay, so let's see. I'm going to read just a bit, and we'll have to post the link. Question: It seems that the script is sometimes an afterthought on huge productions. And Craig says, yes, and you swear that you'll never get involved with expletive like that, and it happens. On Quantum, we were effed. We had the bare bones of a script, and then there was the writer's strike, and there was nothing we could do. We couldn't employ a writer to finish it. I say to myself, never again, but who knows? There was me trying to rewrite scenes, and a writer I am not. Question: You had to rewrite scenes yourself? Me and director, Mark Forster, were the only ones allowed to do it. The rules were that you couldn't employ anyone as a writer, but the actor and director could work on scenes together. We were stuffed. We got away with it, but only just. It was never meant to be as much of a sequel as it was, but it ended up being a sequel, starting where the last one finished. It was a massive commercial success, though, so it wasn't a failure in that sense. No, quite. Thank God it worked, and it worked like gangbusters. But for me personally, on a level of feeling satisfied, I would want to do better next time. That's really important to me.
Wow. And then he did Cowboys and Aliens.
And then he did have you seen it? I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it, and I have zero interest.
I'm totally going to see it. I'm going to see it, and then I'm going to call you immediately. I feel I'm very excited for Skyfall, the next Bond, and it sounds like he is too, which is good.
Yeah. What was your take on Quantum of Solace? Not that we're talking about that.
No, we're not, because we've sworn not to do Bond at all. But
not because we don't like Bond. But just because
I thought it opened exceedingly well. I really liked the opening, say, half hour, and then it kind of deteriorated.
I just watched it again for a second time, and I found myself liking it a lot more.
Did you like it as much as Crystal Skull?
Not as much as Crystal Skull. I like it a lot more than Crystal Skull.
That's great.
Yeah, so it's practically Oscar worthy, right?
I'll need to watch it again. The beginning of it is really vivid to me, but the rest of it sort of fades away. I'm not as crazy about the hydrogen powered hotel in the desert.
I wasn't either when I first saw it, but this time when I watched it, I don't know, it just seemed to work a lot more for me.
All right.
I don't know, I thought it was kind of interesting, and okay. I didn't like it the first time that, the whole thing was all about, this big company that's stealing water. It seemed so kind of just meek for a Bond film. But when I watched it again, I'm like, that's actually really kind of genius, because it's almost more, there's more power, I think, to somebody controlling water than there is to somebody stealing all of the world's gold or something. So I think that I kind of bought into it a little more.
Yeah, that's interesting. You feel like people can get away with stealing water because it's sort of a meek resource.
Mm-hmm.
Gold is much more standoffish. Makes you want to steal it.
Yes.
It's water. He just takes the water. What is you take it, you drink it, you piss it out. What do I care? No, that's enough. Enough. It's late.
Yes. It was lovely. We haven't even figured out what we're talking about next. I don't know. Maybe we should leave it as a surprise.
Here at The Next Reel, we've been passionately discussing movies week after week since 2011. That's a lot of movies and a lot of conversation.
Sure is, Pete. And to be honest, it's a lot of work too. But it's work that we love. If you have been enjoying our show, we'd like to remind you that there are ways to support us, even if you're not able to become a member just yet. You might have heard us talk about our new watch page, where we've listed every movie that we've talked about, paired with Amazon or Apple links to rent or buy the movie.
Now we'd like to introduce you to our originals page. Let's take a trip down memory lane, Andy. Do you remember what the first film we discussed on the Next Reel was that was an adaptation?
Well, let's see. It wasn't obviously our Indiana Jones series because those were all original. Then we did Charlie Kaufman. Oh, of course. It was adaptation from Susan Orlean's Orchid Thief.
Exactly. We have covered quite a few adaptations over the years, and now we're providing a way for our listeners to delve into the original source material.
That's right. Just head over to thenextreel.com/originals, and you can see the list of all the adaptations that we have discussed.
From our David Fincher series, featuring The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Social Network, Zodiac, Benjamin Button, and Fight Club.
To our Paranoia trilogy with The Parallax View and All the President's Men, we have covered a variety of adaptations.
Those were some great discussions, especially Fight Club. And let's not forget our baseball series with The Natural and Field of Dreams, adapted from Shoeless Joe.
And Up in the Air and Thank You for Smoking. So many memorable conversations.
Absolutely. And you know what's exciting? Each purchase you make through our links doesn't cost you any extra, but a percentage goes to support the Next Reel in our family of shows.
You can support us while diving deeper into these fantastic stories, whether it's the paper, audiobook, or Kindle version.
We've also included plays and movies. If they were the source, we've put it on there.
So what are you waiting for? Head to thenextreel.com/originals, support The Next Reel, and get your next great read today.
I'm off to reread Fight Club. Now, where did I put my Kindle?